sorry,
Oh,
but there you are.
yeah. Hello.
Cool.
Welcome.
What does your shirt say? Washington or?
Yeah, why
Oh,
not?
funny. Nice.
Cool.
Did you get it in Washington State?
No, I got it in California, but
Okay.
it still says Washington.
Nice. 50% off.
Hmm.
Very nice.
Well, I'll just introduce everyone afterwards in a couple of minutes. But yeah, thank you all for being here, and I will quickly launch the recording and let the audience come in. They've been waiting in the waiting room. Okay. Here. So, hello everyone and welcome. This is Lisa, your host today for Words of Type Conversation, episode 6, with with five guests joining at each episode. Well, sorry, again. Okay, I'm trying to manage many things at once, so please forgive me if I'm not really smooth right away. Okay, so I was saying that with five guests joining at each episode, we talk about topics related to typography with a casual and friendly tone. These videos are live discussions. They're broadcasted online on our YouTube channel, and they're accessible for free anytime. To the attendees, during the conversation, you can keep or turn your camera on if you'd like, but please for now keep your mic off so this conversation can go on smoothly. And at the end of the conversation, I will open the discussion to everyone in the Zoom for the Q&A session when you can ask your questions directly after you raise your hand and I call out your name. But if you have any question that pops out in your mind during the conversation and you don't want to forget it, you can write it down in the chat window at any time and I'll ask them during the Q&A for you. So today's topic is font engineering. Now let me introduce our guests in the alphabetical order of their last names. And please, while I call you, if you could wave your hand so people can see who you are. So Rafał Buchner. Rafał, you're a type designer and coder based in Warsaw, in Poland.
Correct.
And you develop tools and fonts that Typotech Type Foundry, and also you have some typefaces distributed at July Type Foundry.
Yep.
And Frank Gracehammer. Frank, you're a type designer and font tool developer working for Adobe, and you are currently based in the Netherlands.
That's right.
Emma Marichal. Emma, you graduated from ESAT Type program in Amiens in France in 2021, and now you're a type designer collaborating with various type foundries, and you're also a font engineer working for Google Fonts. One of your typefaces, Plugin, received the Gerard Unger Scholarship with Type Together and got the TDC award this year.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Steven Nixon. Steven, you're a type designer behind Arrow Type Foundry, based in Brooklyn in the US. And you're also a font engineer at the Type Founders Type Foundry. Long
Mhm.
name, yeah. And
Yeah.
Rosalie Wagner. Rosalie, you're a French type designer and font engineer. After some time working for Google Fonts at maintaining the open source font collection and setting up quality assurance guidelines, you're working on your own now in Berlin, Germany. So I thank you all for joining this conversation, and I'm really happy because even if you all work as type engineers and font engineers, sorry, and type designers, each one of you have various experiences with font engineering, and you all learned the practice in different ways. So talking about education. So education in font engineering. Could you tell us how you've learned it? If it was part of your education program in type design, or did you have to learn it on your own? If so, where, how? Like, whoever wants to talk first, Please go.
Should we be following the alphabetical order? Or
No, yeah,
a
No.
as you like. Yeah, like I said, friendly and casual vibe.
I'm curious where Stephen
Um,
learned it.
Yeah. Oh, Stephen, do you
yeah,
want to start?
sure. I studied graphic design in undergrad and kind of got a little bit into web development from that. And then I moved into more UX and UI design, and got more into web development because I wanted to kind of like more directly contribute to the things I was making pictures of and actually try to build them so they would be as good as they looked in Sketch or Figma. Um, so that pushed me to like understand coding concepts, which don't really come naturally to me, particularly. It's a bit like math, takes a lot of effort. But that helped when I transitioned over to type design. Kind of Python uses similar structures and concepts as JavaScript. So I was able to transition a little easier. I went to type media, which was very lucky, and we had a little bit of instruction in font development and font scripting there. So that was very helpful as well. I'm curious, Rafal, the first thing I knew about you was stem thickness plugin in Glyphs. Was
Yeah.
that an early project for you, or how did you
It
get to
was my
there?
first ever coding project, and that was like I started to code when before I went to type and media during my studying like my first master in Warsaw. I was studying graphic design, specifically book design, and I fell in love with letters before even in the high school. And I had this concept. I didn't knew really no one who was a type designer at this time. There was one or two well-known, worthwhile Polish type designers. I met him later, but I started to conceptualize what is the perfect type designer required to do. And I started to train myself with looking at the typefaces, spacing, so on. And then I realized type design has to be a bit technical. And before that, I never had never knew how to code in anything. And I started to learn how to do I took this book that is called Learning Coding the Hard Way, which the idea it's a very good book. Which idea is you should start to code on the projects that are not so easy, and yeah, thanks to this and my mom, who is very good in mathematics, I started to figure out how to do the stem thickness tool, and also the reason why I started to do it is it still happens to me. Like I'm mostly type designing on my with when I have a free spare time. And when I'm starting to doodle stuff, suddenly I'm starting to think, oh, this doodle could use some tool. And immediately, instead of finishing the type project, I'm starting to work on the tool, and that's also my main focus in coding, and the font engineering came later. I'm a tool developer, and I have also tons of tools that are not published yet because they need polishing and things like that. But it's always connected to the project, and yeah, and the stem thickness was also connected to specific project at this time. Yeah.
So when you say tools, you mean tools that could improve your process, or tools
Yes,
that
tools specifically aimed for drawing usually because I'm very much I love drawing in any sense. Like I was studying in a Polish graphic design department, which is very focused on drawing. Like we were taught how to draw from model for 3 years before we started to design anything, to draw and how to paint and things like that. And I was really much more handy person than computer person before that, and it switched quite quickly because there's a high demand on this kind of knowledge and tools. Yeah, so that's me. I'm really curious how Emma and Rosalie went to this, especially Emma, since she just not too long ago she graduated. So I'm curious how it happens nowadays.
Yeah. So yeah, at the ESAT type, we don't have any courses for front engineering. So I honestly had no idea what was it. And after graduating, I went for an internship at 205TF, and it's a type foundry in Lyon. And there I started to do some QA, but I even didn't know what I was doing, some QA, and Rosalie were working for them as freelancer at the time. And after my internship, she told me like, come to work with me in Berlin. I will teach you prompt engineering. And I still had no idea what was it actually. But I said yes, okay, let's go. And yeah, Rosalie show me like the basic and also how GitHub worked. And then at Google Front I learned like from my colleagues and I from also AI a lot now. And yeah, that's how I learn.
Could you say how long was that internship going?
With Rosalie, or
Yeah,
it wasn't a kind of internship. It was 3 months, but then
apprenticeship.
yeah, but yeah, 3 months.
Yeah, it was a year.
Yeah, it was 1 month in Berlin and then a year, more than a year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The idea was to introduce more women in the Google
We
team.
can't hear you very well, I think.
Yeah, I think your connection, Rosalie, is not so good.
Since she was interning at now.
Yeah, a little bit better.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah? Okay. Well, let's continue. Yeah, the idea for Emma is that I wanted to introduce more women in the Google Font team, and for that you need to train them because there's not so many. And since she found mistakes in my own quality assurance, I thought she had a very good eye.
Yeah, I love QA.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I was not mistaken. So for a year, she assisted me on Google Phone project until she entered the team, and at the end, replaced me completely. So that's pretty cool. And on my side, for the journey, after my post-graduation at the ANRT, I made an internship at Black Foundry for 3 months, and then I made an internship at Alphabet Type, where I learned kind of most of everything, not everything that I know now, but it was a very good introduction. They were writing their own quality assurance tool based on Font Bakery, and they needed to rewrite all the checks in a way that is understandable for the rest of the team. So the way that I learn about font engineering is by looking at all the check of Font Bakery and rewriting them in order to be understandable. And for that, I need to understood them myself. And that's how I got in. And then I started to freelance at Google Font, and it was really, I really learned a lot there also.
Nice.
So on
I
the field.
also agree, like the Font Bakery, looking at those things, it's a collection basically of issues that people have with fonts. When you want to go into bits and pieces of what is the font engineering about, it's a good good strategy also to learn from it. And yeah, that's nice. It's really nice. I feel bad because I didn't mention, like, when I didn't became a full coder myself in the end. Like my first tool, which was stem thickness, it was very famous, but it wasn't written well. And type and media teachers, especially used, was the person who helped me a lot with also getting to know how to code properly.
Use
So
Van Werfum?
yes. So it's that was super nice opportunity to see him, Eric, and others, and how they code and how they resolve the type design related problems. It's really nice. Yeah.
So
From?
just a small question from the chat. I think it would like bringing a bit more context of for our discussion today. Some people were asking about about describing or defining what font engineering is. I mean, we all know, I guess, what typeface design is, but what is font engineering in the context of type design? Would anyone wants to say something about it?
Should I say something about it?
Yeah, Stephen, you've added a few great information, but maybe bringing it into the discussion right now would be nice.
I think
Yeah.
font engineering is best when nobody notices that it has ever happened. And when people do notice any problem with fonts, it's usually an engineering problem. It's either a quality problem or a platform problem or unexpected behavior. So engineering is basically avoiding any of these problems.
And when you say problem, could you say like a few examples of those problems?
User unhappy, software crashing, font not printing, font distorted, character dropout. All of these lead to user unhappy. So user unhappy is usually the main point.
Yeah, often it's that a font doesn't look how you expect it to look, or it doesn't look the same in Illustrator and Word and Chrome.
And Windows.
Yeah, there's like so many permutations of where a font can be used. We try to make them all work pretty much as expected and the same everywhere, but that's quite a challenge some of the time.
So I guess that all of you or most of you have gone to font engineering because you've met some of those issues and you wanted to know like why did this happen and how to improve this, right?
Yeah, more or less. Like with me, it started since I had idea how Python works and how TTX works, like font tools works, the tools needed to basically see what is inside of the font. I started when I had a problem, like Frank really well described it with if the problem that user showed me, then I started to figure it out on my own to see how it behaves if I'm changing something inside of the font and then suddenly, oh, it works, or I made something worse. Yeah.
Well, speaking of challenges, what were the challenges that you've met while trying to learn it and when you are still like doing it as of now? Rafa, or maybe Emma or Rosalie?
Well, personally, my biggest complex challenge is when I work alone because on the contrary to the men on this platform right now, I don't code. Like I have no interest in in scripting, and I'm using the tools of other people. And so the challenges come when there is a bug in those tools and you have to bypass it. Yeah. And it can be very complex to like, you know, that there is a tool that have a straight way to where you want to go, but since there is this little bug, you have to make an entire journey all around it to get to the same goal and end up with something very complicated when it would have been very easy. And of course, asking the author of the tool, I mean, it takes time and you have the deadlines on the other side. And so when I'm on my own and not working with any real software engineers, yeah, that's my biggest challenge.
So maybe learn how to code yourself would be a solution. The next step.
No, working with people who code is the solution.
Yeah, but actually that's a very nice point. I mean, working with anyone, not only with the coder, but with people who have different also way at looking at type. Like people that is strict about Q&A and looking at the tests, doing that test themselves. It's very good for me, for example, because I'm a problem solver, but not problem recognizer in a way. So this is often challenging to be alone in this point, because it's always good to, also from this point of view, that it is always better to have another pair of eyes to look at stuff, because sometimes you don't fully, like, regarding what Frank said about that the user sees something and sees it's bad, it's usually the font engineering problems. You have to also to decide, or to see for yourself, it is for sure font engineering problem or design problem, or you have to categorize it in a way. And this is very important to do it with people. And if you are type designer, a font engineer at the same time, sometimes it's one person job that is very hard to do alone. Yeah. So yeah, I think that was the most problematic moment when when I heard problems with my variable font that I made alone, and had to solve the problems alone, lonely. Yeah.
But are you building yourself like a community of other font engineer peers to discuss what could be like to help you out whenever you meet a bug that you cannot solve or
Yeah, I mean, it's always like with, at least for me, I have people from type and media, usually graduates that I know, and we can exchange with, have you faced this or something like that with those problems. Also, right now when I'm working at Typotech, I also have Liang, who is awesome when it comes to sharing also his much more technical way of looking at stuff. He's like in
Young is brilliant. Yeah.
yeah. And in Typotech, we have two technical people right now. That one is very technical when it comes to font engineering, and he's specialized in Unicode and in different scripts. And me, I'm also a font engineer, but I'm more towards tools and connection with also designers that using those tools. Yeah.
Frank, knowing the size of Adobe, I suppose that you're not the only one doing font engineering.
You're right. There's thousands of font engineers employed by Adobe. No, this is not true. The teams within these big companies, as Rosalie probably knows, are much smaller than the company looks. So the fonts team, the team that really is involved with making typefaces, is maybe 10 people, maybe 13 if we count the Japanese team. And there is often hybrid roles where somebody is not really involved with actual producing type, but management or working with other applications or such. So yeah, I'm a font engineer at Adobe. There is actual engineers who have studied engineering that work on font tools such as the FDK, like my colleague Skeff. And there is people who are more on the design end of things who do less coding, like Paul Hunt or my colleague Taisei in Japan.
So it's not that much of a solitary work.
For me, no. Although I'm not physically seeing many people, I do meet them at least weekly. And there is, of course, always Slack conversation or Discord or whichever platform we choose. There was a question about community Rafal brought up. I think the RoboFont Discord is a very good community to ask questions. There is the Glyphs forum where you can also ask questions. Usually the answer is, why would you want to do that? But there is communities out there where people, especially people who are beginners, can go and they will usually receive an answer. So I encourage everybody to join these communities.
Yeah, and I think especially my experience with it, especially when you are self-taught at the beginning and before you finish any course or did any special workshop, it's just, those communities are super open to help you. And RoboFont, like this is awesome community. I so like this idea of sharing the tools, sharing the knowledge about the tools, being open even about the tools that are like behind some kind of paywall. The people who created those tools are super open about very critical aspects of those tools. It's so nice community and so also like willing to help. It's awesome to be in the touch with them. Yeah.
Yeah, if even if those communities are very sound very supportive, I suppose that the only language that is spoken there is English. And this is maybe a question more for Emma and Rosalie. If you meet something that if there is a question that you want to ask, but it comes only in French and you don't know how to explain them clearly enough in English, first, did that ever happen? And was it an issue? Like, were there any confusion going on when you tried to find your solution?
Actually, even in French, all the font engineering like vocab is in English, so it's okay. It's okay for this part, but yeah, sometimes if we have like some difficult discussion about very technical thing in a meeting, for example, it can be at least to me to follow everything. But I didn't see that as a big difficulty in my job. It's okay.
Yeah, for me, I realized that I was giving a workshop this week in a French university, and half of the students were French, and the other half not, even less than I think the French was my minority. But every time I was starting to speak French about technicality of font engineering, I was switching in English, and it's yeah, this is a very international because the font engineer community is so small and so global. Yeah, I remember Emma when we were working together English. As-tu poussé we are conjugating the GitHub vocabulary in English.
In French.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes I even don't have any French word for something. I just don't know how to translate it, like kerning, crénage. I don't know who say that, but yeah.
Well, Frank has a question for you, Emma, Rosalie, and Rafa. What keyboard layout do you use?
But my background of my
Oh, still the
question
French.
is because you say, okay, font engineering is very English focused. Like, is all engineering? All engineering goes back to like English as a main language. The ASCII character set pretty much only supports English, and everything grows from there. And I noticed that when I switched to US keyboard layout, so much easier to do coding. Brackets and parentheses are easily accessible. Undo is not an acrobatics like on a German keyboard layout. So I'm curious if other engineers also have switched to this, or if I'm just.
Oh, that's very interesting question, because in the end, like Polish engineering, Polish coders are quite well known, like for doing, like there's a lot of hackers in Poland, things like that. People that like hacking community is quite big, and self-taught people is, it's because we are using US layout that is a little bit different. Maybe there is this hypothesis that could work a little bit. We have US layout that has some alternatives, but it's not. It doesn't look like, for example, German keyboards that have reversed Z or something like. For me, reversed Z and things like that.
Whenever I'm in France, in Amiens, where I teach sometimes, and I have to work with a student's computer that have the French layout, I always quit the application because A and Q are flipped. And
oh my God.
Also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the numbers are in shift. To me, it is impossible to use. It's good to use as a typewriter, but not on a computer.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, I guess it's a matter of getting used to.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Sorry, Rosalie, you wanted to say something, right?
Yeah, I personally stayed with the French layout because there is a lot of diacritics in French, and with the US keyboard, it becomes impossible to write.
Yeah.
It is possible. You just need to do a dead key, Option E with for graph, for example. That's how I write German text. But you can have a workshop with me in the future. It doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be now.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that yeah, that's really interesting thing, because in the end I can understand that it doesn't bother Rosalie, because you are just used to this setup, right? So, but in my case, I can feel anytime I will switch to another keyboard, and I'm using this like switching to another language. So that's probably matter of similar also problems that this brings. Like, I'm thinking in English a little bit differently than in Polish, and yeah,
The muscle memory is a funny thing.
yeah, that's right.
Well, I think this could lead us to the next question. I'd like to ask you, what do you think the next big challenges in font engineering would be, if you have an idea? Like, from what you've seen so far, the next big challenge.
Yeah. For me, like, there's a huge thing going on in all industries, which is like how to think of AI getting in there. Like, this is something what I think that all people in the technical industries, but not only, could start think about also how it will impact the work, and the also like the workers in the end. I don't believe that it will replace people one to one. But I know that the fact that people are thinking in this way, that it will replace people, it will move the market to at least try doing it. And there are already, like, for example, my girlfriend is she's a therapist, and she says that a lot of her clients, sometimes between the therapists, when they need help, they go to MML to check out what's going on with them and to have a contact. And few weeks ago, there was a huge thing in US, right? 16 years old person just committed suicide, and we have a tool that is not fully grown in the public space. There are huge problems with it when it comes to privacy and things like that, and people want to use it. I mean, that's my view on it. Companies wants to use it to replace some works, and I think the challenge for font engineers and type designers is what to do with it, not in terms how to fight it or how to not fight it or whatever, but it's more how to find yourself as a community, as an industry, how to be able to show what is the value in us, and how to also be able to manage it. And for example, like there will be changes in it. I also using AI tools from time to time in different aspects, like machine learning. This is something what it's interesting for me as well, but also I can see lots of possible implementations that could be very helpful for type design process. And at the same time, if we implement it, then it would be cool to think how this implementation can impact the industry and how it will impact young designers that are coming into the industry from schools or from, yeah. And later on, what we can do to make it possible for them to also interact with the market in a new way. So those are the things that not only type design industry, but in general, the industries have to think about. And I see it as the huge thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think AI is potentially just going to steamroll a lot of the industry. I think it's done that to illustration, and like potentially my worry is that like the overall quality of fonts might like drop by a lot, but they'll be so easy to make. I don't know. I think a lot of agencies, for instance, would like want to save their big corporate client a few $1,000s by like getting AI to make a new version of whatever font that like looks good in the brand. And if it's off by a little bit, like they won't care. Um, so I don't know what to do about that actually. Um, I think there will probably still be a market where like actual font quality does matter. If a lot of people are using the fonts, they have to be really reliable, and really good. But for things like branding or packaging, I don't know. I think like cheap might win, or be pretty hard to compete against.
Yeah.
And another big question is like, will font technology remain similar at all, or will it just be like generated directly to pixels, for instance? In which case, like potentially the whole paradigm of open type fonts could really, really, really shift.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I don't think it will like there. I'm not worried about the replacement, but how it will shape usage of the fonts and in general of visual media, and that's the
Or just
case.
like expectations, I think. I think everybody's being trained that like you can get creative results that are pretty good by just like prompting a machine, and we're all probably starting to like treat one another like that, or that's a risk, at least. And that's across every industry for sure.
I think I would rephrase the question. Instead of thinking of the next big challenge, as a font engineer, I always ask myself the old challenges, when will they be fixed? PowerPoint.
Oh yeah.
The slant access, the support of AVAR 2. When will all those stuff come?
Well, would you see any kind of help with AI to figure these issues out, or no? Maybe.
No, AI would be clueless in this. Like, it's the big
Probably.
corporation that need to sit down and finally fix their bugs, which
If
they don't
anything,
care
AI
about,
might
so.
doom these issues to remain because Microsoft is putting all their money into AI rather than like making their
Yeah.
consumer apps work well. So maybe the Steam Deck will actually be the solution, and Steam or Valve will like fix font rendering because everybody's going to move there. I don't know. But yeah, I recently learned that like PowerPoint doesn't export the right weight from a variable font to a PDF, for instance. And we're like quite a few years into variable fonts, and like problems like that are still relatively common. Or the slant axis is like perpetually confusing and weirdly supported on browsers, which is a funny one. Slant and italic axes for variable fonts.
Yeah,
Probably
every
my
time I have sorry.
Oh, well, I was going to say my favorite potentially, and maybe my opinion is this is morphing, but like the possibility that interests me of AI and type is that like potentially handwriting fonts could potentially be like quite amazing, in a way that is extremely challenging in like the system of OpenType, because like creating endless variations of characters is like kind of rather challenging.
Rosalie,
But
you
sorry,
were
Rosalie.
yeah, you were about to say something, Rosalie.
Yeah, I read the chat at the same time. Yeah, no, I was about to say something about the slant axis that is actually the most requested bug to resolve from clients, and there's nothing much we can do about it.
Well, that perfectly leads to another question. Have you gotten to discuss about font engineering topics with clients or colleagues who don't know anything about it? And how did you explain what this part is for their typefaces in easy terms?
In my point of view, it happens all the time. Like this is exactly the moment when a client is writing an email and asking why it doesn't work. And I think this is, or if you see on the GitHub, if you have a public project that you've been working on GitHub, you see the back report saying that this typeface is wrong. Then there is need of explaining, or at the same time asking how you use it, what was the reason, and what was your environment, and things like that. Those questions to clients are very important, and it's important that client understands the questions, especially for custom projects where we cannot like relate to other people that maybe use those fonts and things like that. So yeah, and explaining it in the simple way, it's always hard. It depends on the how big the client is. If it has like if it has its own tech division, or if the client himself understands the technology behind, I don't know, even web development, or how fonts more or less works. It's always easier to do such a things. But it's not easy sometimes. Like explaining stuff, for me, it's easier to do via call, and yeah, this is how it works for me.
How about Emma and Rosalie, since you've worked for Google Fonts and the Google Fonts are open source and open to everyone to look at and give comments on them, have you met any complex things to explain to random people?
Yeah, because I think what is difficult sometimes is when we have to explain to it's not really client for Google Phone, but that we have some specifications to follow. And sometimes they build their file in a way like, I don't know, renaming style in a way, but we just can't do it like that on Google Fonts. So sometimes also they use some features in clips, for example, that are not supported, like some special layers or smart components. And yeah, we often have to modify some technical things, but usually they understand and they trust us. But when they are like senior tab designer, it's more difficult to say them like, sorry, we have to modify your file. But usually it's okay, and yeah, they completely understand. So yeah.
They understand that you have to modify their files without modifying the designs.
Yeah, and if I have to modify any design related stuff, or I always let them know, and I always ask before. So yeah.
Yeah, because it's also like true that as a font engineer that is not working on this as a type designer, for example, we are the bridge between, as a implementators of the design technology, we are bridge between designer and person that will use it. So in a way, we have to know that designer on designer side, she knows that technological restrictions he designs or she designs and she's under, and then we have to if there's everything okay and the client is for example, I don't know, complaining about how it's being implemented, for example, the stylistic sets are not in the order that done in a way that user expects and things like that. We have to communicate a little bit between this side and this side, because at some point this is connected. Like often I have to explain the design parts that are very technical to the user, and in to do it, I have to communicate between those two and involve them in this communication as well. So yeah.
I had a client recently that was rebranding and redesigning a font they were having, and so without fixing some issues like line spacing. And from the beginning, I told them the vertical metrics will be an issue. And they say, oh, yeah, okay. So I tried to guide them as much as possible. I made graphic, I explained the problem, I made several files to show them the different possibilities. And I told them you have to involve your web designer in this decision. The thing is, like, they absolutely didn't understand a word of what I was saying, even though I was trying to explain my best. It's still very much technical vocabulary. And even if I made illustration and everything, they just ignore everything and they went with a random solution. And in that case, there's nothing much to do except wait for when they're gonna face the problem and we'll need to fix it in emergency. And so I just had prepared my solution and I waited a few weeks. And a few weeks after, they came to me, oh, we have this problem with vertical metrics. And I was like, no problem, I send you the file. And that's it. Like sometimes you just need to wait for them to understand the problem by facing it in real life. And whatever you do, whatever you explain, however educational you are, if it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit, and that's it.
You should charge emergency fee for this.
Oh, I did.
Clients have to pay for being stupid.
Oh yeah.
I did.
True.
Just talking about font naming sometimes like starts to get into font engineering a little bit or something like um, especially if you're discussing optical sizing with a client, for instance. I- it's hard to say like it's not necessarily font engineering, though it does kind of get into like variable font explanations, but it's also about like kind of a deep, hard to understand design technicality aspect. But it's also funny because sometimes the client understands more than you think they do. Like I kind of rambled on for probably 15 minutes about optical sizing and possible naming, and the client was just like, yeah, no, we want like the one that we used in our mock-ups. It looks good. I was like, oh, okay. Like, yep, that's the display. That makes sense. You're good.
Yeah, well, I guess that the clients have a certain responsibility with their commission because in the end it's their project, it's their product. So they need to
Mhm.
understand some of it in order to know how to deal with it. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure that in many other fields, people meet very similar uh, meetings or situations with their clients. For example, I would think about architecture. If an architect designs a building and it looks nice on 3D renderings, images, everything, but if in reality there are technical constraints that engineers would come up and say, this will not work, why, and things like that to explain to a client. You also need to explain those terms in easy way and quick because as you said, yeah, they don't really have time or energy or interest to listen and actually understand what's going on. Yeah, that's really not easy. So yeah, that would be another challenge, no?
Yeah, and especially like I was thinking about the slant axis we were talking about. Like it's hard
Yeah,
to.
I mean,
Oh, sorry, Rosalie.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
So yeah, sometimes it's hard to make them understand that it's not your fault. Like just the thing is not well supported, and if they want that name, it will not work. And they're like, please make it work. But I'm like, it's just not supported. And yeah, it's yeah, it's a difficulty we can have sometimes. The client thinks we are like magician and we can do some yeah, magic, and we can't sometimes, but yeah.
Rosalie, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I think we have a delay with my internet connection.
Oh,
So if it looks like I'm cutting someone, it's because there was actually a blank in the conversation. But yeah, I wanted to say that well, it's been a very long time that I don't enter in conflict with the client. anymore. I mean, I might have done that once at the beginning of my career, and then I just thought, okay, it's actually their responsibility to listen and to take decision. And if they just need to face the situation to get to where I wanted them to go, but it's okay. I mean, it's not. I'm wasting a bit of time, but I'm not. They are wasting their own money, so it's also okay. And we can't expect them to understand everything, although we could expect them to take us seriously. And this is probably a thing that Emma might feel, that sometimes you really feel that if you had a beard, you would be really like, maybe they would have listened to me at that moment.
Ah,
But they come to their senses at some point.
Maybe you should get a beard.
Yeah,
try that next
I
time.
could
Yeah.
I could
Nice
sell
one.
beards for font engineering folks. Maybe I'll just that'd be probably a little weird, but you know.
Yeah, it's true that Frank, Steven, and Rafael, you all have beards.
I was just noticing that, yeah. Maybe that's
Yeah,
the
me
real
too.
Aerotype merch that I need to sell, like
Mm.
maybe like little felt thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that would be another topic. Women
Yeah.
being taken seriously or not in.
Maybe sexism is the next big challenge in font
Oh, yeah.
engineering to solve. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, have you, Emma and Rosalie, have you met a lot of those? Like feeling of not being taken seriously in the field because you're women.
Yeah,
It's almost
of
like
course.
obviously. Yeah, yeah. And also, like, I think it's not necessarily not taken seriously, it's like not heard at all.
Mhm.
Like you can feel that you start talking and in front of you the person space out as if I was his mom talking, and he's like, oh, my mom is talking again. I go on the beach. And so if I said something that was meaningful, it was not heard. And if then someone with a beard said it exactly the same way, but he was heard, like this is, I think, the most difficult thing. Like I think how many times Emma we were feeling like, I just said that. I just said that in so
Yeah.
many ways. Like I make graphic. I've written an article about it. I've sent the messages. Well, what should I do? And at the end,
Yeah.
there's nothing. There's no other explanation than, okay, they space out because my voice is too high, probably for their brain.
It's
And
their brain.
also, and now I'm out of the open source Google font thing, but I think Emma maybe is still challenged by that. Like the Google font repository is public, and everything that you do, someone can look at it and comment on it. And so in the writing, you can already sense a bit of difference sometimes. But of course, there is always other people that are very nice. Like it's not as if it was like everyday majority now. Like it's just
Yeah. I'm sorry on behalf of all
sometimes.
beard person that agree with being sorry for that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a larger and very different topic, I would say. But to the bearded guys here, have you worked with other people and you felt that they took things differently with you rather than colleagues who are women?
The problem is that I never work with a person with a woman that is font engineer, and that shows
Mhm.
something.
Yeah,
So
not yet.
not yet.
Mhm.
I saw it in the designers on the designer side in different situations, not in my current firm, thanks God. But in different situations, I saw it a lot. But the truth is, I never worked with another female font engineer, so that's already like the fact I know that someone might say, "Oh, this is so small industry. There are only few of font engineers, and probably we have 90% of women here at this panel." But yeah, I never worked with any of them, and there is a huge structural problem about it, I think.
I have a female font engineer in my team, and this is mostly thanks to our former manager, Christopher Chapman, who was always very aware that this is a problem in the whole industry. And we had a 50-50 split in our team at some point, which is great. The female engineer in my team is not nameless. Her name is Misbah Tabassum, and she is a specialist in Arabic. And she is just as good as any other font engineer. So I think we should all always try to question, can this be more with less beards, for example? And I think we have a good 50-50 split here in our conversation, with Lisa counting as one without beard. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah. A question, Frank. When your manager was aware that it's a problem in the industry, you are referring to type industry or in general to tech industry?
You can extrapolate into
Yeah.
any bigger entity. It's true in the type industry, it's true in the company, it's true in the tech industry, it's true in the country. So you always have to work against it.
Yes.
But does that have anything to do with the fact that accessing to font engineering knowledge, learning it in the first place, is quite hard and fully online, and like it's away from the other like kind of conventional ways of learning things that few women have access to it, or even know about it. As you said, Emma, at the beginning, you didn't know what it was about. Would you say that this could be something that should be fixed as well, in a way?
Who are you
Frank?
asking?
Yeah, Frank? Yeah.
Access to engineering topics for women. Well, for example, I know there is a Python community called PyLadies who encourage Python scripting for women. That is a great community, and such communities need to be built. I'm happy that you are obviously working on building such a community. I have not worked with Emma or Rosalie before, but I can see that we're going to work together in the future, perhaps. So we just have to be aware and encourage both men and women that they can have a career or a future in font engineering. So yeah, it just requires, it is not really about gender. It just requires a big, how do you say this, patience for all the annoying problems. If you have that, then you are can do font engineering.
It goes with exposure. I know more female font engineers than male, actually, because talk in the shadow. No, but they are not exposed to the public because font engineering is a shadow work. You work behind someone all the time. You're actually barely credited, and so it really goes with ear to ear. And the thing is like, I'm not a big fan. I mean, I guess we are font engineer because we are not necessarily big attention seeker. And but I kind of also force myself to, not force, but I try to expose myself more to also give an example, because when I was a type design student, I only knew like one or two female type designers, and it's only because I knew then that I could project myself as one. And so, yeah, so it became important. Like at some point when I was working at Google Fonts, I mean, for Google Fonts as a contractor, I was thinking, maybe to have better exchange online on GitHub, I should change my name to a male one and change my picture. And this way, everything would just go so much smoothly. Like I would have to explain way less stuff and blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know, but that's what I thought. And at the same time, it's like, but if I remove the public figure of like, or just like the female figure that I represent, then I give less exposure to the fact that a font engineer can be a woman. And actually, it's because every time that I do a conference or a workshop in a school, so many female students come to me like, oh, I'm so interested in that. I would like to learn that, blah, blah, blah. Emma got a lot of interns that are women showing an interest. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
goes
only
with us
accept
having
women.
to be a bit more public. Yeah.
What did you say, Emma?
No, I joking, but I only take women's interns.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That could be a topic for another conversation,
Yeah.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I know that now I think that it's time for a Q&A session. Trying to go through all the messages that has been, yeah, there has been a parallel conversation really on the chat. I tried to follow it, but it was, there were too many messages. So again, does anyone have a question now in the audience? If you want to turn on your microphone and ask it yourself, you can first raise your hand or start writing your message on the chat, the question on the chat. There's a question from Grant asking, technology affects results, hence culture sometimes in negative ways. Do you see any cultural pros and cons with the spread of var font technology? Who wants to reply to that?
One of the funnier things I've heard from a type designer I won't name was like sometimes they said sometimes I suspect that variable fonts was just an op the whole time for Google to distract all of the type designers with something impossible for a while. Um, and I think personally, I have enjoyed variable fonts so much, partly because it's this grand puzzle. Um, but I occasionally wonder how many different fonts I could have drawn or how many scripts I could have learned about if I wasn't so interested in making letters move in big systems. But I'm interested in making letters move in big systems, so I'm happy whether it was an op or not the whole time.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I completely understand the question, but I see, like, I remember at some point at Robothon in 2019, I think it was at this conference, someone, damn it, I don't remember who, but anyways, there was a very good point about variable fonts that when you design for variable fonts, you design basically interpolation, and therefore, if you designing something that changes the width, changes the optical size, you stop drawing it. Like you're drawing masters. You are not designing stuff that is in between. And at this point, there's something that we are starting to do with those designs. They can start to look more and more similar in terms of thinking about optical size, width change, weight change. While I remember from this talk, there was a lot of examples of specimens from beginning of 20th century where something that had completely different width, some grotesque that had narrow and wide things, or grotesque-like typeface, had completely different designs in different widths, and that there is something that
I
we are
think
losing.
Indra Cooper-Schmidt maybe
Yeah, that was
gave a
Indra.
talk about that.
Yes, that was Indra for sure.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm bad with names, and I know Indra.
No,
his
I
name,
just
but
that
it's
was a
like,
very memorable specific talk.
yeah, and that was a little bit about it, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Or Emma and Rosalie, Frank, do you want to say anything about this first question from Grant? No?
I can say something. I was just typing out a message. I mean, the obvious pro aspect of variable fonts is that a lot more people have work for these sometimes huge projects. A negative aspect I can see is that it is one more technicality that you have to explain about fonts to users. It creates fragmentation in support. Sometimes you have technical problems that you cannot really solve or that are unsolved at the moment. But generally, a variable font is just a font. It's just a different packaging. I think ideally the user doesn't even notice if it's a variable font or not.
Yeah, if I can add something, just last week I had to explain to a client what an open type feature is. This for you, I guess, feels so like so far in the past. Yeah.
I think the explaining what open type features are is like explaining what this button in your car does. Like if people drive cars with many buttons, but they don't really know what other buttons do. So explaining open type features stays a permanent job. You need to say, okay, this font is like this, but it can also do that. And people will discover it or not. In my opinion, fonts should also work without open type features, but it doesn't mean that open type features are worthless.
Mhm. Well, any other question? Renan, do you want to turn on your mic? Yeah.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I think something that popped up in the chat and that Frank partially replied. I think someone asked about like what like about the scope of type engineering, and Frank said that it depends a lot on the client, on the project, and that's something I find interesting. And I think also like a lot of you have multiple experiences, like working in a foundry and Google and Adobe, or freelancing. And yeah, just curious to know like how do you think that the practice changes depending on the context that you work in relation to like the day-to-day work, communication with the designers and users, and like the technical challenges. From my experience working at Dynamo, even like within one foundry in different periods, the kind of engineering challenges, they change so much that it's almost like I don't know, the work changes a lot. So it's almost like a different job sometimes, depending on the structures. And just wondering, like, what do you think about it?
Who wants to answer? Renan.
I think Rosa. Sorry.
Go ahead. You can go.
No, no. I was just thinking of one of the Rosadi conference in Thessaloniki, I think, when Rosa, you presented like 3 case study. There were the big project for for Google Font for small companies. Maybe you can explain more than me.
Yeah, sure. But I was missing one of the case. But basically, you have the case of small design studio that is trying to make font themselves. In general, they're gonna go to a foundry for the engineering. Then you have the small foundry that can hire a freelancer. Then you have the quite big foundry that have an in-house engineer. And then you have the big company that has an entire team for themselves.
Well, yeah. Stephen, do you want to follow up or?
Oh, sure, yeah. I guess I've had a bit of experience working on fonts for Google Fonts in the past, and some fonts for my own one-person foundry, and for the last couple of years close to it, fonts at the Type Founders. And it's been really interesting over that time. Like Google Fonts has especially supported tools that have made like quite a lot of it way faster and easier. So like the GF Tools Builder abstracts font make and fixing tools and things. Like a lot has been packaged into a simpler interface. So at the Type Founders, they've acquired close to 30 foundries, or I don't know, something like that. And there's just so many fonts to like try to onboard and improve and run through QA process. So I guess like, yeah, the fonts I'm making still take me like so long to like try to do every little bit of it. But if a designer has done 95% and I'm just doing the QA and trying to do as good of a job as I can for as many fonts as possible, it's a pretty different experience. Yeah, that's a lot faster, but challenging in different ways. A weird thing is going back to my own fonts and trying to finish them and wondering why it takes so long sometimes. But it's because I'm doing a bunch of silly things that I shouldn't with open type features, etc. So
Well, yeah, great. I think I can go on with the next question. Thank you, Renan, for the question.
Thank you.
From Dave, to what extent should an aspiring or prospective font engineer focus on learning existing font? Let me repeat that. To what extent should an aspiring or prospective font engineer focus on learning existing tools really well versus software and development and engineering to make their own tools? Frank quickly replied, but if you want to continue, I can also read out Frank's message. Or
I
Frank,
think everybody can read this, but I can also just say what I think if you would like me to. I think ideally, somebody who is new to the field would try both. They would try and see, okay, this application looks at fonts in this way, the other application looks at fonts in another way, and what am I missing in between those two applications? And once they get deeper into it, of course, it's worthwhile learning software development to come up with your own solution. That could then become the third tool. We see a lot of this happening today with tools coming out where you're like, oh, yeah, actually a really great addition to the canon that nobody has thought about. So yeah, I think both is the answer. I wonder what Emma thinks about this question, since she probably is in the middle of learning both of these things. I'm also still learning, by the way, so just saying.
Yeah, I can't coding like myself. I do some stuff with AI, and it's enough for me. I think first is to learn how to find the right tools and use them properly. It's already a big thing. And yeah, at a point you realize that you can't find what you exactly need, and it can be very useful, especially for drawing thing, because everybody has his own way to draw fonts. So I guess we need customized tools for our practice. But yeah, in my case, I don't create my own tools a lot because I have nice colleagues who doing this for me. But yeah, it's really important to know how to use them and understand them, also to know how to ask questions and how to um, ask for support and improving tools.
Yeah, from my perspective, lots of font engineers are quite humble people in their core when it comes to what they know, because my experience, for example, is like when I was at the beginning of this conversation, and Lisa asked how you became engineer, whatever. For me, it was fake it till you make it situation. Like we are taught how to draw letters, most of us. Like this is not like, and from what I hear, it's not only in typing industry the case. Like a lot of coders are actually like are working this way, and I really like this approach when you don't know nothing, but you are trying to do it anyway, and you basically pushing with your knee the knowledge into you, but maybe not the knowledge. You're trying the solution so hard that sometimes you break things, and that's and I never had, like, to answer this question from Dave, I never had like a strict program how I learned, and I never clarified one. Maybe that can be quality, and then that can be also disaster. But I feel like this is a quality. We are designers who wants to fix stuff in their fonts. That's actually how it started for me, to do font tools and like not fix the fonts, but to solve the problems with our pipeline. This is how it started for me, and I think for a lot of us. Uh, so yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that this panel probably is more representative of like a design leaning side of font engineering, and there are people like at the lower portions of the stack that are just like on other levels of engineering, uh, like yeah, Simon Cousins and Bedad Esfabad and folks working on things for Google Fonts, and yeah, or yeah, people making the software we rely on, like Glyphs and RoboFont. Yeah, the super engineers. I don't know. I think like many things, like um, it's hard to say. Like it's not even necessarily useful to tell somebody to be strategic about like learning the existing tools or making their own. Like I think that humans develop best if they just do what they're most interested in doing, typically, and you can't be too strategic about it necessarily. So if you like have a hunger to draw fonts, you probably are going to want to use existing tools because they exist. And if you have a hunger to make new tools, you probably care more about that than making fonts. And so you want to make the tools, and that'll be fruitful for you.
Yeah, I see Frank answered that in his experience, it's quicker to write his own tool. In my experience, it's not quicker to write my own tool. It's definitely slower.
It is slower, and you're right. But first, it's much more satisfying to think I did this with my own tool and I renamed 1,000 glyphs rather than doing it by hand. That's just a simple example. But I also think by writing these tools and by writing solutions for a problem, you collect experience, and you at one point you will cross the threshold where writing the tool is actually quicker than doing this thing by hand. It's my I don't know if I have crossed the threshold yet, but I still get satisfaction about from writing quick tools or quick scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
I
an
guess
efficiency that's
oh,
really, yeah.
no,
Well, it builds over
sorry.
time. But go ahead. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I feel it's just the experience differ according to your own skills. Because I do have to write some scripts myself sometimes, but it takes so much research and effort. And when I do it, I don't have the satisfaction I did it. In my head, I was like, damn, that was so unnecessary. There is a guy that I could call that would do it so faster,
Mm.
so much more. Why did I bother?
I've been there.
But you
Well,
might be
most of the
better than
time.
that guy at understanding the problem. The problem with working with a guy, and the guy may be your colleague or maybe AI or whatever, is that they don't truly understand the problem you want to solve.
That is true.
So I think you spend the time no matter what. You spend the time explaining it to AI. You spend the time explaining it to your colleague, or you spend the time explaining it to yourself. And I think the last bit is for me the most fulfilling one.
It's
Sorry, I
kind of
didn't want
like,
to
do you want
end
to
the
be a guitar
conversation with that.
player or a drummer? You know? Or I feel like every single field, like you have the choice of like what thing you want to specialize in, and the only way to get there is like by thinking like, I don't know, do I want to play guitar? Do I want to play drums? What's more fun? Yeah.
Yeah,
Or like what
I
is an opening right now? Yeah.
I have this feeling, probably in every field, there is always a deeper level. And you have to choose the range that you want to cover, because if typography, layout, like type type composition is at the surface, and then you're like, oh, I'm interested deeper level of knowledge about the deeper you go and the less on the surface you can be. And I at least for myself, because I'm not, I mean, I know brilliant people that somehow can do it all. Myself, I can't. If I still want to be able to type design, I can't go so much deeper into the engineering side. I have to find the good compromise, the good in between, where I can still gather knowledge about font engineering, but at some point I'm like, okay, this is not for me anymore, because if I go that way, I won't be able to design also anymore. I don't know if you have also.
Yeah, I think there's something to it that I think also, and Stephen, I don't know about Frank, we are also coming from the school that shows a lot of holistic, like the tool is this is what I took from Type and Media a lot. Like the tool is a core idea of learning in this school, and if you are able to own your tool in a way that you understand it from inside out, it adds the value also to your design qualities. And I'm sure Like I don't think it's the only way to think about it. It works for a lot of people, actually, but yeah, but I also understand the part, like not all people after type in media know how to code in the end, but know how to. They chose not to go that deep, but it depends. It's a very personal in the end way of dealing with that. I don't know.
You say knowing a tool inside out is important. I feel old when saying this, but for example, I knew FontLab 5 inside out. I was like, wow, I have clicked on every button in this application, I know what everything does, I know all the bugs, I know what can happen. What do I have from this today? Nothing. So I think it's better to take the tool for what it is. It's just a tool. The tool is there for you to help you understand, not to understand the tool. I don't know if that even adds anything to your point, but I just have to.
Yeah, but
say that.
in the end, the tool is the thing that we always discuss in meetings like this, like in the meetings of type designers and font engineers, like how much it involves your projects. And maybe I phrased it in a way like the tool, knowing the tool inside out is beneficial for you. You have control. That's more important than, yeah, I don't know how InDesign works inside out. I never touched everything, of course. I know the main reasoning behind it, and but I'm able to use it. But I think for my type design practice, it gives me something, and it doesn't have to work for everyone. I understand it this way. Like, yeah.
This conversation does make me think about the next big challenge in font engineering. And I don't know if it's font engineering or software engineering or type design, but I am struggling at the moment with cross-working environment. Like I have my habit with glyphs, I have my habit with the Google font environment that uses FontMake and GF Tools Builder and blah blah. But now I have a client that is on RoboFont and I have to do everything on RoboFont. But I still find glyphs more powerful for certain stuff. And I understand now that RoboFont is more powerful for certain stuff. And so I want to use both while collaborating on GitHub. And I must say, I'm really, really struggling. And I think Steven is kind of a pioneer in that era because he uses all those tools and he has I think you have a good workflow with them and you made conference about it. But I mean, there is challenge, right? It is like this is something we should solve at some point.
There's challenges. This week I can't open UFOs in Glyphs app for some reason, so suddenly scaling fonts is harder.
The reason is that the UFO files universal type index has been changed by the latest RoboFont beta, and you will need to downgrade in order to be able to open it in glyphs again. I don't know who to point the finger at, but something was messed up. It's not our fault. So sorry for interrupting you.
It's good. Oh, it's just a funny example of how, like, yeah, font engineering is sort of just troubleshooting all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, nowadays I'm using for this thing Fontra to open a nice editor and open the design space, for example. And like those tools are popping up and also going away quicker than the whole industry exists because type industry is quite old. So I would never stick to one thing for sure. But it's still I like knowing tools is for me is a value, of course to do it at any level you have to have margin knowledge of the tool. But understanding how it works in the end, how Bezier curves works, things like that, makes you just able to use this technology. And this is, I agree with Frank, this is just the technology in the end. It's a means to some end. But understanding it helps you in achieving it, I think.
Yes. Well, there's a Charles, you rose your hand. Do you want to ask your question?
Not so much ask a question, but rather to comment something to Rosalie. You're asking about future trends. What's going to happen next? What is going to be the next big thing? So you guys don't know, but I'm a professor. And in my class on future trends, we start to look back at history and how the technology, the culture, the society affected what was happening in design. And then we can use that to project what might come in the future. So probably most of you have never worked with metal type, actually to actually produce something. But that technology, the variable types were made with pantograph machines, where we could vary the aspect ratio of what was happening. So we start to look at that, and if we start to project forward, what's going to happen? I don't believe AI is going to replace typeface designers, but it might replace coders. And what will AI become in the future? Well, back in the 70s, I was the educational director for the Institute for Artificial Intelligence. I made all the educational materials. And that was before we had 16 and 32-bit chips. So we were looking at 4 and 8-bit computing processing. Very different from what we have today. Could I predict at that time where AI was going to be? No, because the chips weren't there. It couldn't do what we are seeing it doing today. And that's going to change again further in the future. So we have to look at, I'm going to call it typeface design and typeface engineering as a stepping stone to what's going to happen in the future. You guys are future-proofing yourselves by being able to write code. But are you writing code for a particular software program that may or may not be around in the future? So when I was working on specific typesetting machines, doing font design, we were stuck with what that tool would provide us. But the tool that was most useful was a French curve and a ruling pen. So think about that as we start to look at what's happening coming forward. That's all.
Thank you, Charles. Okay. So next question, well, it's maybe not a question, from France, saying, I'm hoping that the next big thing will be countering the negative effect of interpolation, which makes the negative space even more neglected in what we actually read. Noten. Not sure I'm getting this comment.
Not sure I understand.
Yeah.
What's the definition of notan, Rent?
Ren, do you want to explain more?
You might have stepped away.
Yes, no, it's just I started typing that, then it was gonna take about 10 minutes. Notan it's a Japanese term. It's the interplay and relationship of the black and the white, negative and positive space. It's actually the only thing we see. It's what we read. We do not visually trace the imaginary pen or anything like that. So, and because var font interpolation focuses on moving black shapes around, it makes the negative space even more a byproduct. Before, when you don't have interpolation, you pay more attention to the negative space, and that I think results in more readable fonts. It's just a theory. But so I'm worried that this facilitation of the black is going to reduce functionality.
So sorry, like Hrant, do you have a question? I'm not really getting if
No,
you
I was just thinking out loud about future
Okay.
trends. And I'm not sure this is an engineering trend. It's more of a ideological design trend, I guess.
Okay. Well, does anyone have other questions? I think we are a bit over time already. So yeah. Questions? No more questions? Or Frank, Raphael, Emma, Stephen, Rosalie, would you have anything else to add?
I was going to send a direct message to Rosalie, but then I decided to say it publicly. I know there is problems working across applications and working across formats. I would be happy to share about my own workflow, but in which platform should that happen? Should it be a workshop? Should it be a GitHub repository? Should it be a blog post? Or should it be a call? How would you ideally learn my view or Stephen's view or whichever?
Workshop,
Well, I
but
was
with a
very
US
happy.
keyboard? Sorry.
I was very happy to watch Stephen tutorial on YouTube about RoboFont tutorial, like how to use RoboFont and how his workflow with glyph function when I need. So if you think
Thanks.
about making videos or little articles,
I don't have the professional video setup that Stephen has, but I may I may think about writing about these things. I find hands-on always better because once you make a video, 1 year later you have to update the video. So I think it's better to do it directly. But yeah, I would really like to do that.
you
It all
can
just
do a
depends
words of
on.
type lecture. Sorry.
Mhm.
Perhaps.
I think it just depends. Like, I don't know, everything is good. Like, there's massive strengths of written information. It's a lot faster to search for the thing you're trying to find and get information from. But a lot of the time, like, if you don't know what you're looking for, like particularly for a beginner, a video can be really helpful because reading docs on glyphs, even though they're really, really well written, it's a bit daunting for sure. So.
I have to say, when I am looking for a solution to a problem and I see somebody making a video about the solution, not just typing it out, I'm usually annoyed. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about how to set this option in InDesign. And there is somebody talking for 5 minutes about the history of InDesign, and then in 3 seconds within the video, maybe there's a solution to your problem. But
Yeah, I feel that.
yeah.
I don't think of my videos as like particularly helpful. I think of them almost a bit like Twitch streamers playing a video game. Like you can learn how to be better at a video game by watching somebody who's played the video game a lot. But if you're just looking for like the solution to like defeating a boss, you'd probably prefer a blog post, you know,
Yeah, your
or
videos are nothing
whatever.
like that. They're also not, I don't think you release a video every day for engagement, although you should maybe.
No, yeah, way too lazy to do that.
Well, yeah, we're way more than over time now. So I will just say a big thank you for your time and for this nice moment. Thank you all. I hope that everyone enjoyed it and found it interesting as much as I did. If you do, you can support Words of Type by becoming a member if you're not already. And all the details are on the wordsoftype.com website. Next episode will be in 3 months in March, so stay tuned for more information. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Wishing you all a great day, or afternoon, or evening. And I will see you all next time, maybe.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you,
Lisa.
everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks
Cool.
a lot.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
It
Yeah,
was good to
thank
meet
Thank
you guys.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Bye.
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 Bye.